I'm new to surf fishing, and lately I've been learning how to catch halibut in the surf here in Ventura. Looking at the tides, I noticed this nice low tide, and I've been told that this is a great time to access structure which holds bait fish, which is where the halibut are at. Now don't get me wrong, I've caught halibut at mid-tide and even high tide before, but I know that the last 2 hours of an outgoing tide is a good time to find them. I had a spot in mind I wanted to try in that tide, so off I went. If you recognize the spot, please do not mention it in the comments. I don't want everyone rushing this one little stretch of beach. Besides, there are miles and miles of beach up and down the coast that hold halibut. This isn't even a great spot by any means. There are much better spots within 20 or 30 miles. The reason I'm fishing this spot is because it's close to home, and that's why I fish here. I mean, that's why I moved from Washington State to the California coast, so I can access fishing in my backyard 365 days a year. Now that I'm here, I see that there are even better beaches north and south of me, so I might even choose to move closer to those beaches at some point, just so I can fish them 3 or 4 times per week without having to drive more than 10 miles. So I caught this fish on a 3-inch slam shady from Salt Strong. You can get a pack of these for free, by the way. Just go to saltstrong.com, subscribe by email, pay $2.87 shipping, and they'll send you a free pack. I love these baits, and I'm excited to order packs in larger sizes. These plastics go great on the Texas rig. I use a 5/0 EWG worm hook with a 3/8 ounce bullet weight. You can add a bead if you want to. I usually don't. I tie it either directly to my 20-pound or 30-pound braid, or I add a 3 or 4 foot leader of 20-pound fluorocarbon. Or also, I think Izerline XXX copolymer is a good choice. What's so great about the 3/8 ounce Texas rig is that it rarely ever gets snagged. I can fish this same bait for days and days without losing it. It might get snagged once or twice a day if I'm dragging over some rocks along the way, but if you're using straight braid, some rapid twitching of the rod tip and then a firm pull will usually get it out 9 out of 10 times. If you're using the fluorocarbon leader, you might lose a couple baits a day if you're fishing really heavy, snaggy structure. Now this is life-changing for me because I had snagged and lost a lot of baits over my first months learning to surf fish, and it was such a bummer. I don't have the money to keep buying expensive jig heads and hooks and baits. I'm always on a shoestring budget, just working with what I've got. I mean, seriously, a friend gave me a few baits, and I'm still fishing with those same exact ones months and months later. I've caught so many fish with them, they're all torn up. I try to patch them back together by melting them with a lighter or using super glue. So when I learned that I could fish any kind of structure in the surf and not get snagged, this was an absolute game changer. Another perk of the Texas rig is that if the water is just a little dirty, and by that I mean loose pieces of kelp and eelgrass floating around, pretty much any other bait is going to be unfishable because the hooks just collect that weed and it fouls your retrieve. But if you fish the Texas rig, it glides right past most of that stuff. And if weed gets wrapped around the bullet weight, you just give it a few twitches and it shakes the weed right off 90% of the time. So this allows you to take advantage of a really good spot in a really good tide, even if the water's a little dirty. I thought it was game over if the water was a little dirty, but now I know there's at least one way to fish water that has a moderate amount of loose weed floating around. So another one of my Pen Pursuit 3 reels is officially broken. I need to mail it in with a proof of purchase back to Penn for repair. I don't think this model is going to work for me because I surf fish so many hours per week. This is like my 4th one in 6 months. It just doesn't seem to be up to the task. I'm thinking about trying the Daiwa BG, but if I could really afford it, I would spend $1,000 and get 2 killer reels that are made for the surf and come with excellent warranty and repair service. But for the time being, I gotta make do with what I've got. So I'm gonna mail these back to Penn for service. As long as they're willing to repair it for me within the first year, I'm gonna take advantage of that while I save up for a nicer reel. Now here's the 23-inch halibut I caught. I'm so happy this fish came up that day. I fished 6 hours. I ended up catching 2 halibut and a sand bass. I covered about a quarter mile of beach. Casted the whole thing. I'm really just trying to observe where I get bites and then try to understand why I'm getting bit in those spots. Also, when halibut fishing, it's a good idea to cover a lot of water anyways. Drag over a lot of sand, because these fish can be often spread out. They can be congregated in one spot sometimes too, but it's often a good idea to keep moving and try to find the fish. I really want to tell you that if I can do this, you can do this. I'm just learning, so if I can learn how to catch halibut, you can too. It just takes determination, a good mentor who actually catches a lot of halibut, and the time on the water to search for the fish and learn how to catch them. So how much time should you spend on the water when you go fishing? That's totally up to you. The best fishermen I know, they fish for like 2 hours at a time. They know where their favorite spots are, and they know when they need to be there based on the tides and other conditions they can get from websites and apps at home. So based on the forecast and reports from other buddies who are out there fishing, they can get all that info on the conditions and plan when to show up, fish, catch, and go home. That's what I'd like to learn how to do. Fish for 2 hours, catch some halibut, go home. What could be better? But in the meantime, I'm just enjoying putting in tons of time, like 4, 6, 8, even 12-hour days, just to go walk every single beach and cast all over the place as I scout out new spots. I just love to fish, and I love nothing more than taking a whole day to just walk around on beaches and see what I can learn. If I'm lucky, I might catch a fish along the way here or there. Everybody gets skunked, so don't be hard on yourself. Don't take it personally, for goodness sakes. It's up to the fish, not anything else. Like my wise friend Ray says, it's called fishing, not catching. If you don't go fishing, you'll never know if you would have caught a fish that day. So just go for it and enjoy the ocean. Enjoy the time you spend in peace, just doing this simple, relaxing thing, wading through the surf, casting and reeling, pursuing your prey, trying to get that fish so you can take it home and cook it and eat it, or release it if that's what you're into. I'm not really into that. I fish to eat and live the fish. Now on this day, I got a lot more bites that just didn't connect, and I think this is the only downside of using the Texas rig. You're gonna miss some bites here and there. So if the water is clean and it's not a snaggy area, by all means, use a jig head with an exposed hook or a jerk bait like a Lucky Craft or a Kalisa. But otherwise, if the fish are home and they're ready to bite, but the water's a little too dirty for any other lure, then the Texas rig might be the only way to catch those fish. So here's the second halibut of the day. I'm really proud of this one. I saw a big boiler rock from a distance. I stopped combing the beach, I walked straight for it, started casting, and on my third cast, I caught this fish. It was only 21 inches. The legal limit is 22 inches for keepers. So I threw him back in the water, made sure he stayed nice and healthy, and then I popped the hook out and got him back in the water as soon as possible. He swam off nice and strong. Man, I love these fish. Let's face it, these fish are hard to find, hard to catch, so any day you catch a halibut is a good day. At the end of the day, I caught this. It's actually a barred sand bass. It was so dark, I couldn't even tell what it was. I thought maybe a grassy rockfish or something, but I went back to the same spot a few days later and I caught another barred sand bass. It's got me wondering what kind of structure might be in that area to hold these fish. That's all for now, guys. I'll see you on the next episode. We're gonna pound the sand for like 20 hours. Let's go.